All right, boys. We are back with another YouTube video, and who doesn't fucking love an impact scene? Dead fish town no toes. Yeah, I've got this little fish tank brewing. Me and the roommates have really put it together. It's starting to look good. It's a bit green, but it's all the algae. We'll get it cleaned off. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comment section. All right, boys. Today, it's just going to be we're pretty much just going to do an NBA recap. I'm going to go and get some coffee, but I just wanted to turn on the camera and get into the flow of things. We're going to go over the games that we saw last night, kind of give a talk on the contenders we got so far. I'm excited for today's video. Stay tuned. Love you all, boys. And how are we doing? We are back with another YouTube video. What is up to all of my basketball, football, UFC, anything sport fans? I'm glad to be back here today. Welcome back to the channel. This is BS News, aka Dylan Butler. This is something I take pride in. I'm glad you guys are pulling up to watch the video. If you are, make sure to hit that like button. Make sure to hit that subscribe because we're going to be diving into all of yesterday's action in the NBA and what went down. If you enjoy the vid, like, subscribe, hit that noti bell. Make sure you're caught up with all the content I'm dropping. Love you, boys. Here we go. Yeah. All right, boys. You know me. I got to pull up with the vibes. We've got a special video in store. As I discussed, we will be going over the NBA game slate from February 23rd, 2025. So tune in. We're going over each and every game. We're going to start off with the game that most of you probably care about, that being the New York Knicks versus the Boston Celtics. This is a big matchup as we have a top 4 seed in the New York Knicks. I believe they're currently the 3 seed facing off against Boston, who is the number 1 contender in the NBA. Even though they don't have the highest odds in Vegas, we all know Boston has the best chance not only to win the title this year, but to repeat. First up, both these teams facing off in not Madison Square Garden. This was at the TD Garden. This was in Boston. The Celtics ended up winning this game 118-105 in a pretty dominant fashion. They mostly led the whole game. New York made a push in the third quarter, but it really came down to them being down by too much, and it was too much to come back from. To start the game, the Celtics were up like 15-3, and then Jalen Brunson hit a 3, and it was like, this game's probably already over. But you always like giving a team like the Knicks, who has so much talent, the benefit of the chance, and they didn't prevail. Jason Tatum had a great game. He dominated not only on the offensive end, but on the defensive end with multiple steals in the passing lanes and on ball. The Knicks just couldn't find enough consistency, and Boston's depth ended up being the reason, even though Peyton Pritchard didn't have that great of a game. Sam Hauser was hitting threes. They had different players stepping up. At the end of the day, there's 2 levels to these teams, and we've seen it through the 3 matchups they've played this year. This was actually their closest game, surprisingly, because they still lost by 13. The Knicks still lost by 13, but the past 2 games they played Boston, they've lost on average by 25 points. So is it a step up? You could say that, but Boston went ahead and dominated. They sealed another win, and they're proving that should the Knicks really be a serious title contender, they've lost to them 3 times in pretty bad fashion. Yeah, so 118-105, Celtics dog on the Knicks. Game 2, we've got the Dallas Mavericks versus the Golden State Warriors. As all of you know, the Dallas Mavericks have had a ton of injuries of recent. They're missing Anthony Davis. They're missing Derek Lively. They're missing Daniel Gafford. They're missing their whole front court. So coming into this game, I thought it would still be close with them still having their role players, them still having Kyrie Irving. But at the end of the day, Golden State's star power was too much. Steph Curry ended up putting up 30 points, 7 rebounds. He was dominating, just on fire, hitting every shot. It felt like every shot he was taking, he was going to hit. And that's kind of honestly what it came to be. Jimmy Butler, he had 18 points, played some solid defense. He's really just the glue guy there now. Like before, during Golden State's dominant title runs, it was Draymond Green. He was a glue guy. And yes, Draymond is still a glue guy now. Playmaking, playing defense, not really just being the on-ball dominant player. Jimmy Butler's kind of been the same thing. He's doing a lot off ball. He's doing a lot on the defensive side of the ball, and he's getting other players involved as well. And it showed big in this game. They dominated them. Golden State won 126-102. It wasn't necessarily close at any point in this game. They kind of just coasted the whole way. They got up big in the beginning and never looked back from there. I don't really have much else to say about this game. We're not going to know much else about Dallas until they get back Anthony Davis, they get back their front court, and we can finally see them as a fully healthy squad. We won't know. But Golden State prevails. They win 126-102. For these next few games, we're going to go rapid fire. We got the Pacers versus the Clippers. They faced off yesterday in a battle of East versus West. The Pacers ended up winning this game in pretty easy fashion. They won by 18, 129-111. The Pacers dominate most of the game. No Kawhi Leonard for LA, but James Harden did put up 31. They got some help from Zubac, who had 22. It doesn't look as if I didn't watch this game, so I'm not going to as if I was locked in. I didn't watch it. No Kawhi, no Norman Powell, so you expected the Clippers' offensive side of the ball to be a bit limited, and it showed. Tyrese Halliburton ended the game with 29 points, 12 assists. Great game from Hallie as he's kind of starting to figure things out. Beginning of the year, he was struggling, not scoring the ball as we know him to be, but over the recent past month or so, Halliburton's been cooking. Pacers win 129-111, smacking up the Clips. Moving on to the next game, I want to get into another big game here. We've got the Timberwolves versus the Thunder. This game, this is one I was looking forward to. I put money on it. I had Naz Reid putting up a big game because of the fact that last time they played OKC, they didn't have Rudy Gobert, and Naz Reid dominated. The dude had like 27 and 12. So I was like, you know what, I'm throwing money down on it again, and I think this game is going to be within 8, which it was, but the rest of my parlay shot. So don't put money on the Wizards. Probably shouldn't have done that. Anthony Edwards, 29 points, 10 rebounds, 7 assists. He had a great game as per usual. The Timberwolves are still just lacking another offensive threat. Jaden McDaniels had 17, Naz Reid had 22, so he did have the game I was expecting. 22 points, 11 rebounds, 2 assists. He was a good asset on the offensive and defensive side of the ball. Nickeil Alexander-Walker had 18. Jalen Clark, the rookie, had 14. So they had some guys step up, but in the end it wasn't enough. They couldn't hold Shea, who had 37, 8, and 8. This man just seems to be an unsolvable puzzle night in and night out. I really wonder when it comes to playoff time how this OKC team is going to look with having such a dominant on-ball figure in Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. Chet had 19. He hit a few threes. I saw him. Pretty open looks. Jalen Williams had 18. He was really what closed off the game for Oklahoma City, hitting tough jump shots, hitting open threes. Jalen Williams came up clutch for OKC, and it really came down to them just having more offensive firepower than Minnesota does. What are you going to do in Ant-Man's case? You can shoot the lights out, but at the end of the day, OKC is more talented. We're going to move into Grizzlies versus Cavs. This is also another game I had money on. These two teams, two top respective teams in their conference. The Cavs come away with this one, 129-123. Kind of putting it to the Grizzlies. This game was close, but was it really? I don't know. The box score says it was. Only lost by 6. I had the Memphis Grizzlies. I felt like even though Cleveland is such a dominant first quarter team, Memphis is the most dominant first quarter team in basketball, averaging 30 points damn near every first quarter. So I said, screw it. I'm going to take the money line on Memphis first quarter and then the spread on Cavaliers at the end, which was -6, which they ended up covering. But Memphis could not prevail in the first quarter, ended up losing the first quarter by 4 points. Donovan Mitchell had a vintage game, 33 points. He was hitting pull-up threes. He was getting to the lane, dunking on people. He was dominating. Evan Mobley, great game as well, 25 points. They did not play Darius Garland. He was out this game, and it didn't really matter. Ty Jerome had 26, came up huge off the bench. Ty Jerome has been a spark plug to this Cleveland team, he gives a vet, even though he hasn't been a long-time NBA role player, he's had the experience. He went to Virginia. He came in as a bit of an older rookie, didn't really play much, and then this year you're kind of seeing that basketball knowledge. He only played 23 minutes, had 26, 5, and 4. He came in there, was super effective, scoring in the close range. Evan Mobley had 25. DeAndre Hunter had 12, 8, and 2. overall, Cleveland is in the full swing of things. Their offense is really going. Their defense is playing great. I love what I'm seeing from Cleveland. On the Memphis side of the ball, John Morant, 21, Jaren Jackson, 22. Memphis doesn't play a lot of guys a whole lot of minutes. So, I mean, John Morant played 34 minutes. Desmond Bane played 35. Desmond Bane had 7 points. Did not have the greatest game for Desmond Bane, but, you know, Memphis, they're young. They get out on the break. I need to see the half-court offense really start clicking, because that's what separates them from other top contenders. All right, on our next game of the slate, we've got the Milwaukee Bucks beating the Miami Heat in Milwaukee. The score 120-113. The Bucks finished this game with Damian Lillard 28 points, 8 assists. Giannis 23 points, 16 rebounds, 7 assists. Giannis, who has been on a minute restriction since the All-Star break, is starting to turn it up a bit. I don't know if he was dealing with some sort of injury or if they just kind of wanted to ramp him up slowly and gradually as they got into it. They haven't had too many difficult games since the All-Star break, so it makes sense. Take this time, let him get into the swing of things, especially if he is dealing with a smaller injury. You know how players are with load management. You never know if they're really injured or if they're just taking the night off. So Giannis is in the full swing. Dame, great game. But on the Miami side, even though they lost, Tyler Hero had a complete flamethrower of a game. 40 points, 11 rebounds. The dude played 40 minutes. He balled out, but it wasn't enough. Bam Adebayo, he had 24 and 7. This Miami team, who's once known for being such a great defensive unit, and they still are. They have a bunch of great defensive wings. They brought in Davion Mitchell, who's a good defensive guard. Andrew Wiggins is good on the perimeter. Bam Adebayo, one of the better defenders in basketball. They have the rookie in Khalil Ware, who had 12 and 12 last night. Even though that's not the craziest stat line, he's a very good impact player for the Heat. Overall, the Bucks, we expect them to win that type of matchup. They're competing to be one of the top seeds in the East, while the Heat are still kind of figuring it out, rebuilding it back to a sustainable contender in the NBA. Tyler Hero looks better than ever this season, and that's the brightest side of everything so far for the Heat with all the Jimmy Butler drama happening. For the final game, this is the game that I actually enjoyed watching the most. This was Hawks versus Pistons. This game was a shootout till the very end, with Cade Cunningham putting on an absolute heater. The dude had 38 points, 12 assists, 7 rebounds, almost a triple-double, but he had 7 three-pointers. And he wasn't just taking corner threes, spot up from the wing, wide open threes. This dude was pulling from deep. Cade put on a complete show. He is looking better than ever, and I'm really excited for what this team has. Detroit's got a bunch of young talent, as you know. Jalen Duren, one of my favorite young players, and even though he hasn't been what you'd want on the defensive side of the ball, the dude is a beast. Asar Thompson, good game. Only played 17 minutes, but was very productive. 14 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists. Cade, as I said, Malik Beasley has really been a great addition to this Detroit team this year. If you haven't kept up, he's been a great locker room player at the deadline. He went to the Detroit GM, the Detroit front office, and was like, hey, I understand I might be in some trade rumors, but I want to be here, so if you guys can keep me, I would appreciate that, and they followed through with that. Malik Beasley has been a complete shot in the arm for this team. He's been great. He had 24 points, hit a few threes. On the Atlanta side of the ball, we saw a vintage Trae Young game with 38 points. He matched Cade Cunningham. It wasn't enough. 38 points, 13 rebounds, or 13 assists. He dominated as well. They need Jalen Johnson if they want to be a serious team. They just don't have George Niang put up 27. How often is that going to happen? Dyson Daniels had a great game, but he was getting cooked by Cade, even being one of the better defensive guards in the NBA. He had no answers for Cade Cunningham. And with players of Cade's stature, with his skill level, there sometimes just isn't a stop. There isn't a way to, you cancel off the left side, then he's making it on the right. You cancel off the right side, he's making it from the left. You stop the three, he's taking it to the lane. You stop the lane, he's taking the three. There was no answers for Cade Cunningham last night, and it showed. 148-143 was the final. I really enjoyed yesterday's NBA slate. I thought there was a bunch of good games, even though there was a few games that were kind of out of hand. I felt overall there were some great performances. There were some big-time shots, some big-time games, and I'm excited for what today has to offer. In my next video I'll be dropping out later, we'll be recapping today, February 24th, what goes on today. We got a bunch of games coming, so stay tuned. Love y'all, boys. Hope you enjoy the recap.